good to see you. Welcome to another edition of Bible Shorts with Bible Bob. You never know on that side of the microphone or the speaker or the phone, whatever you're listening to or watching. If you're watching on YouTube, we encourage you to go there. Subscribe, please. But you never know how many times it takes to do one episode. Sometimes you pray, you sit down, and it goes off without a hitch. Today, this is take number 3. So that means I've done it twice, tried to edit it, and through all kinds of audio, video problems from the amateur here, it just didn't work. So here we are with take number 3 for episode number 111, part 9 of chapter 9 in Hosea. And today's episode is called Whore on a Corn Floor. Now, that might sound like some vile rap song if you're an old head like me that doesn't like vile rap songs. But trust me, it's from the King James Version of the Bible. The King James uses the old King James language, and a lot of us, I think it's beautiful. It's haltingly in terms of my understanding right away, but I need to go a little bit deeper into the King James. And what I have here is kind of cool. This is actually, if you're watching online, you'll be able to see it, but it is a Amplified and King James side by side. It says large print, but I don't really think it's so large. I think my other large print that you can read from the end zone of the Buffalo Bills Stadium, that's large print. But this here, it's got 2 versions of the Bible side by each, I guess is how we would say that. And this Bible here is a special gift. Before I get into today's lesson, I just thought I would mention this. This is really kind of cool. It has an inscription in the front of the Bible. It's presented to Bob Keebler. That would be me. From Linda Thornhill. That would be my wife and her maiden name. It says, God's treasured son. I got to put glasses on because even the writing is small print. God's son, the type of diamond. From Linda Thornhill, God's treasured daughter. The new beginnings, new hope, set apart day, October 8th, 2012, the Grand Canyon. Jesus loves you, so do I. And at the bottom, the Bible verse is, Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path, from Psalm 119, 105. So what that's from, this Bible is in memory of a very special moment in my wifey and ours life. Is that how you say that? Proper English? And what it was, you might be thinking this is TMI, but it was our first kiss. So we were in the Grand Canyon on our first date. We had a grand date in the Grand Canyon, and I'm telling you, it was a grand kiss. What happened was, it wasn't something we planned. Neither one of us thought, well, it's time to kiss or anything like that. It was a spiritual moment where 2 people came together, 2 people who were putting God first, 2 people who had been through some relationships that didn't quite work out. But now, putting God first, it's a whole new ball game. So this is a special Bible to me, and that's why I've got it today. I do want to read from the King James, because the King James is the only one that opens up Hosea chapter 9 with the word whore on a corn floor. And I just thought it was kind of neat. So if you just happen to be tuning in and you're just happening to check out Hosea chapter 9 and you haven't watched the other 8 chapters, I encourage you to do that. But Hosea is a minor prophet. God tells him to go marry a woman who's going to be unfaithful. And it speaks metaphorically of the Israelites who are committing spiritual adultery. And that's what the whole chapter is all about. So I'm going to really key in on the word separation, and threshing floor is where we're going to go. But let me read you the chapter. It gets pretty vile. The word macabre, which is pretty sick, comes to mind. I mean, how far these people had strayed from God. And I think it's a lesson to us that we could go that far as well. So let's go to chapter 9 in the King James Version. Rejoice not, O Israel, for joy as other people, for thou hast gone a whoring from thy God. Thou hast loved a reward upon every corn floor. So when they talk about a reward upon every corn floor, basically what they're talking about is that the whore on the corn floor would receive some type of remuneration for the services. The threshing floor, talk a little bit more about it later, but what it was a men's only place. It was where the harvest was finalized and threshing was done, a separation, but women really weren't allowed there. But what this is saying, hey, Israel, don't have joy like the other nations because there's a harvest. They have joy in giving their false God credit, but you can't give their false God credit. Don't joy, because you're going to lose your joy real quick. So let's go on. The floor and the winepress shall not feed them, and the new wine shall fail in her. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. They shall not offer wine offerings to the Lord, neither shall they be pleasing unto him. Their sacrifices shall be unto them as the bread of mourners. All that eat thereof shall be polluted, for their bread for their soul shall not come into the house of the Lord. What will ye do in the solemn day, in the day of the Lord, in the day of the feast of the Lord? For lo, they are gone because of destruction. Egypt shall gather them up. Egypt is a place of slavery where they came out of. So now the Lord is saying, you came out of slavery, I got you out, but you haven't given me credit and you're not playing by the rules that I told you to play by. You're going to go back into slavery. Memphis shall bury them. That's a place in Egypt, a city in Egypt. The pleasant places for their silver nettles shall possess them. Thorns shall be in their tabernacles. The days of visitation are come. The days of recompense are come. That's punishment. Israel shall know if a prophet is a fool, the spiritual man is mad, for the multitude of thine iniquity and the great hatred. So basically, to know that a prophet is really a prophet, you find out what he said has come true. And if not, well, then he's a crazy man. In this case, Hosea is true. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first stripe in the fig tree at her first time. Then they went to Baal Peor, false god, and separated themselves unto that shame. And their abominations were according as they loved. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird, from the birth and from the womb and from the conception. Though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them. Then that there shall not be a man left, yea, woe also to them when I depart from them. Ephraim, I saw Tyrus is planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Give them, O Lord, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them. For the wickedness of their doings I will drive them out of mine house. I will love them no more. All their princes are revolters. Ephraim is smitten. Their root is dried up. They shall bear no fruit. Yea, though they bring forth, yet will I slay even the beloved fruit of their womb. My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. So that's a pretty dark chapter there. Talks of the repercussions or the ripple effect of bad things. When a country does bad things, children suffer. Today I was reading about this morning that in Massachusetts, they've legalized abortion almost up to the point of birth. And, like New York, there's a photo of people laughing and smiling about it. They call it women's rights, but there are no rights when a life is taken away. That's not somebody's rights. Those are just wrongs. There's many children that are born prematurely and they live. And to say that the baby can be killed even up to birth because you don't want it, that's like going too far. So what's happening here in Hosea, God's saying, you've gone too far. You have gone way too far. Sometimes we make mistakes, but when we keep making the same mistakes and we pretty much say to God, you know what, I'm going to keep going where I'm going. The funny thing about prosperity has a way of creating spiritual blindness because we look at being successful. Oh, yay, me. Look what I have. I've done it. I did this. I was successful. We forget all about God's part because he's the one who really provides provision. He's our great provider. So here we're going to start. Let me read you in the Amplified Version to give it a little bit more clarity of the opening verse. In Amplified Version, Hosea 9:1 says, "Rejoice not, O Israel, with exultation as do the peoples. For you have played the harlot, forsaking your God. You have loved a harlot's hire upon every threshing floor, ascribing the harvest to the Baals instead of to God." So when you look at the whore on the corn floor or a harlot on the threshing floor, it could be a illicit, immoral, sexual thing, because that did happen. Like I said earlier, women were not allowed in on a threshing floor. It was a men's place, and it was a place for threshing and separation. So during the harvest time, there was some celebration going on. Celebration could include alcohol, sex, and all kinds of illicit things, worshiping the false gods, because that's what the pagan people did. So Israel had fallen into these bad habits. And so that's what we're looking at here. So now what's the significance of the threshing floor? So throughout the Bible, it's known as a place of separation. It's both a physical and a spiritual place. Physically, they used it when they would bring the harvest in. They would separate, let's say, the wheat from the chaff, or the wheat from the waste. You may have heard the chaff is like the bad part that is blown away in the wind. So the threshing floor, the different ways they would do it, they would take like an oxen. They would go around in a circle and trampling on the wheat and separate it, and then eventually throw the waste part out and gather up the good part. They would have a rock, sometimes pound it, sometimes there'd be a wheel, roll like a wheel of a rock over the top. Sometimes on the side of a mountain where the wind would come, they would throw it up. The heavy or the good stuff would fall down. The wind would take the chaff and blow it away. In the Old Testament, King David had to deal with a plague for his people. To get rid of the plague, he went and bought a threshing floor, put an altar, and sacrificed to God on the threshing floor. God separated the plague from the people, and they were healthy again. We read in the New Testament, John the Baptist talks about how Jesus is going to gather the wheat into his barns, which would be heaven, and then the chaff will be burned up in fire. That's hell. So you have these physical and spiritual overlaps, and it's also a place of new beginnings. In a really cool story in the book of Ruth, Ruth, of course, is with Naomi, and they start out, they leave Bethlehem. Ruth is in Moab, and Ruth, or Naomi, and her husband Elimelech, his name is, they leave looking for better places. They've got two kids, Chilon and Malon, and they go. Well, the two boys marry two women. They marry Ruth and Orpah, and all of a sudden, all the men die. The husband of Naomi and her two boys and the two ladies. It's like, oh, what am I going to do? Short story, Ruthie comes back with Naomi. They go back to Bethlehem. They find that there's a kinsman redeemer who, in those days, when a husband died, the next of kin would marry her to carry on the family line. Jesus is our kinsman redeemer. So Boaz, being like a type of Christ, is on a threshing floor. Naomi tells Ruth, hey, go get washed, go lay down at his feet, explain to him the situation, and tell him, you're ready to be redeemed. And so all of a sudden, Boaz wakes up. Who is this younger woman? And he finds out why she's there. And honorably, he treats her with respect. And she went there nobly. So she wasn't there a lady of ill repute. So Boaz treats her honorably. He goes and everything's taken care of. And he ends up as a kinsman redeemer. And they have a child. And that's part of the lineage of Christ. So even through the threshing floor, we find all these little subplots. It's a place of separation. So here, Israel's gone down a pretty bad road. And when we look at it, we read the end of it, they're in deep trouble. And if they don't turn around, one interesting piece that I read in here, when it says that God remembers their sin. We talked in previous chapters about God remembers things because people don't quit doing them. He can't not remember them. When somebody keeps slapping you in the face, how can you forget the last slap? Because it keeps on happening. This is what Israel is doing. They're kind of like slapping God in the face. So on a side note, so that's pretty much the end of where I'm going to go in chapter 9 in the book of Hosea. When we go into chapter 10, what we're going to see is a little bit about what God's desire is and where he wants to go and how he's going to gather the people. And we start to go down a little bit of a good road. So got some trouble ahead. But troubles create hard times. Perseverance creates hope and patience. That's a really good thing. But where I want to go to finish this, just to ask maybe for your comments. My wife and I are out walking today. We're looking at birds, and we started thinking about relationships and how we've been through relationships where old heads, some were good, some were not. And most oftentimes, there's a relationship, people get into relationships that burn them. And the thought that I had was if you're continually getting into relationships that burn you, you might be the one who's flammable. You need to make yourself unflammable. Is that a real word or is it inflammable? I don't know, but so that you won't burn or get burned. You need to become the person that you desire. And so that's something that we're going to be looking at. We're going to get through Hosea, but we're also going to talk about relationships because a lot of people are getting burned. You shouldn't have to spend your life getting burned in relationship after relationship after relationship. Linda and I did not find each other, and we have a perfect relationship. Sometimes we have miscommunications on my part. Pretty much, it's a really great relationship. And it's all about putting God first, each other second, and ourselves third. We've learned to heal the wounds from previous relationships that we either caused or were a part of, because everybody's a part of it, and how to get healing out of that to go forward into better relationships. So if you've got comments on that, you want prayer on that, and you get down a little road that you want to go on that, send us a message. We love messages. And please, hey, share this content. Tell somebody to check out Bible Bob and give us your thoughts on what you would like to study and how we got into Hosea because somebody asked, hey, have you ever done Hosea? And I thought, I will. So thanks for your time. Go do something nice for somebody. Jesus loves you, so do we. See ya.